Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
I have a comment on item number 47. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Nazir Ahmed, retired scientist, NASA projects. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm executive director of the American Institute of Islamic History and Culture, which has an audience of more than 3 million scholars and students around the globe. I stand before you as a former member of the Legislative Assembly in Karnataka, India, and I strongly support Resolution 200771. 70 years ago, at the end of a brutal world war, we said never again to the Holocaust in Europe. And yet here we are 70 years later, staring at the prospect of a similar tragedy in India. Under the BJP government, India is no longer the India of Mahatma Gandhi. It is the India of Goldwalker, who advocated as early as 1940 that India should follow the example of Nazi Germany to exterminate its minorities. The BJP government has the intent, the means, and the processes in place to declare millions of its own people stateless and to incarcerate them in detention camps, which are being built all over the country at a feverish pace. A refugee crisis of biblical proportions is in the making, and it will have a direct impact on civil society here in San Francisco. The example of neighboring Myanmar is before us. First, they declared the people of Bengali origin stateless. Then there was a genocide. This resolution is not anti-Indian. It is pro-human rights. We want India to succeed and prosper as an inclusive, democratic society. We do not want it to go the route of Nazi Germany. I urge you to please vote for Resolution 200771. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller. You have up to 2 minutes.
Hello. Hello. Madam Clerk, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Criswell, we
Hello?
can.
Yes, this is Gilbert Criswell. I'm in District 8. Hello, Madam Clerk, President Yi. I'm calling to talk about transit issues. Another week, another month, no Muni service in my neighborhood. This is despicable. How long will this go on? We need Muni to run and operate like a transit system, not mismanagement and full corruption. We need not another penny to Caltrain, not another penny to Muni. With these service cuts is unbelievable. Muni says it's on life support and is in crisis. How does Muni plan on getting itself out of a black hole? Well, it's not going to get from the voters of San Francisco because they're not going to support an agency that does not take care of its own. So not another penny for Muni, not another penny for Caltrain, not another penny for BART, not another penny for any of these agencies that have cut services during the pandemic. This is outrageous. Why the mayor goes around in her SUV and supervisors get police escorts by the SFPD to go to restaurant openings and retail shops. The everyday person needs to go to the grocery store, to the doctor's office, to the pharmacy. You have left seniors and disabled kicked to the curb because Muni doesn't go anywhere. Let me repeat that. Muni goes nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
So, supervisors, public comment should be held at the beginning. It's now 8 o'clock, or close to 8 o'clock. and we have to wait to hear all the drab deliberation. 90% of it is drab. And then comes our public comment for a measly 2 minutes, okay? Now let me remind you, the United Nations was formed here in San Francisco. Go to the United Nations Plaza, and at the side you have the homeless. You don't even follow the Center of Disease Control and Prevention norms. The tents are 2 feet apart, okay? Your first duty is to serve the constituents, the citizens of San Francisco. And there shouldn't be one single person sleeping in a tent. And we have thousands all over the city. And you all don't give a damn. And we have to listen to all these deliberations about the SFO and some other garbage that you all can't do anything about, not even housing. You all can't do anything about. These people who are in the tents at one time had housing, and now on the streets. And the whole world knows about San Francisco. And what do you all do? You all talk about this, that, and the other thing. It has no meaning. Crimes against community, crimes against humanity. That's what y'all are doing. Crime against humanity. Innocent people, more elders, mentally and physically challenged, dying slowly on the streets of San Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. DaCosta, for your comments. Next speaker, please.
I did it. Excellent. Excellent delivery, too. And no deep, scratchy voice. Gave the speech, right?
Ma'am, do you have your television on?
I'm done. Well, turn it off. That's the problem. Turn it off. Hello?
Okay, can you begin and I'll set your time.
Yes, I'm sorry. There was interference. Yes, my name is Maymuna Ahmed, and I've lived in the Bay Area for nearly 25 years. I urge the Board of Supervisors to unanimously pass the resolution 200771. When someone showed me actual pictures of the entrance to an Indian detention camp and the Nazi one from Auschwitz, a horrible chill went up and down my spine. They look so similar. It was eerie. All but one of my mother's relatives who did not come to America died in Auschwitz during World War II. Now that I'm married to a man from India, I feel the same dread that it could happen again. And the early stages of genocide have been happening over quite a few years, including rewriting Indian history by deleting the great cultural contributions of Muslims, the pogrom in 2002 in Modi's home state, burning Muslims alive just on the rumor that they ate beef, destroying Christian churches and even shops selling Valentine's Day cards, and the recent unprovoked pogrom in New Delhi in February. What is happening to the Muslims of Western China and the Rohingyas from Myanmar number a few million people each. The same and similar atrocities that have happened there could definitely happen in India. This will be the largest genocidal catastrophe ever, with 200 million Muslim lives destroyed, and then the other minorities will have the same fate. That seems to be the plan, unless the world speaks up now. We need to remind India of its legacy of being a multicultural, multi-religion country. It is not just a land for Hindus, only as the BJP government imagines. This resolution will help remind India that it has to get back on track as a democracy where many different peoples have interacted through the centuries. India needs to hear the moral conscience of San Francisco, a beacon of hope. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Before the next speaker is sent through, I will just announce that there are 39 listeners and 26 members of the public in the queue. Okay, operations. Next speaker, please.
Hi, this is Diana Block. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes? Thank you. Okay, my name is Diana Block. I'm a resident of Potrero Hill, District Number 10. I was a research grants analyst with UCSF for 23 years. And I'm very excited to be the first person to speak in support of the resolution to promote medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba, number 200773. There are many of us who have been waiting to be able to speak. I hope many of us will be able to share why we think this is such an important resolution for you to pass unanimously. Last July, I visited Cuba's Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology in Havana. And our delegation learned then directly from the director of the center about the beginnings of Cuba's impressive biotechnology program beginning in the 1980s. We heard about many of the unique medications and treatments that the center has developed, including Herbapro P, which prevents diabetic amputations, and the many antiviral medications. We also learned about the rigorous process that's used for enrolling people in clinical trials in Cuba. Little did we imagine that 8 months later, one of those medications, the interferon alpha 2B, would become a frontline drug in the fight against COVID-19, used successfully in China and requested by countries around the world. Yet in this country, the U.S. blockade against Cuba prevents the importation of this important medication and many others to the detriment of the health and well-being of the communities that are being most impacted by the virus. Given San Francisco's position as a global medical and biotech hub, this resolution would send a strong message that medical and scientific collaboration with Cuba
Thank you, ma'am.
at this critical moment in time would
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Board President Yee, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Bruce Agid, and for identification purposes, I'm an 11-year resident of Mission Bay and volunteered time as a public transit advocate, either serving or having served on a variety of transportation advocacy, advisory, working groups, or committees. I'm speaking in support of the resolution placing the 8-cent sales tax on the November ballot to provide a stable funding source for Caltrain, and agree with representatives of Santa Clara and San Francisco counties, in our case, Supervisors Walton, Haney, and Peskin, that conditions addressing governance and oversight must be incorporated. Although there is a joint powers board providing oversight to Caltrain, it has a unique structure. I'm sure at time of inception, the structure was considered an optimal framework. However, over time, participating members have identified governance and oversight best practices that, if implemented, will shore up and provide more equitable and effective oversight. There are tough times ahead. Prior to the pandemic, the system was stretched to capacity. It is financially stressed during this current public health crisis and will be post-pandemic. With focus on implementing appropriate structure, governance, and oversight best practices now, the JPB will best be positioned to hold the agency accountable to provide equitable, sustainable, and enhanced service that optimally meets the needs of the contributing counties. This resolution addresses the core needs of Caltrain to operate in the immediate future and to substantially expand service as needed, along with addressing the governance issues. I applaud our representatives and urge San Mateo County to embrace the proposal, take action to approve the measure, and get on the November 2020 ballot. Our focus going forward should be for all three counties to work closely together to ensure voters have confidence that the measure on the ballot is sound, and by voting yes, is good for all constituents, whether someone rides Caltrain or not. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome, caller.
Yes, good evening. This is Peter Warfield. I'm Executive Director of Library Users Association, and we can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com. First, I'd want to comment on the minutes. The minutes, I think, inadequately expressed the concerns that we had. It said we expressed concerns regarding essential services and left out not now being provided by the public library. It sounded like there was concern about what was provided. We were concerned with what's not provided. And we went on to say that we believe there is a need for and no plans for full restoration of not just services, library services. And I'd appreciate if you would add those few words to make the summary of our comment more accurate and more representative. For your information, the library has a $160 million budget and doesn't even have curbside service yet. It has no plan for full restoration of the library. And we also commented last time on the fact that, for example, there are no specific plans at all for non-circulating materials such as newspapers and magazines, which I think are essential for public citizenship and understanding of what's going on, particularly these days. We also commented about very unhappy librarians expressing their concerns with regard to their dangerous assignments as disaster workers. We also talked about problems of City College, closure of Fort Mason, the near elimination of the older adult program, which we think is age discrimination, a lot of people do, and the questionable deals going on with the Balboa Reservoir. Those things should be added to the minutes, and they're still relevant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warfield. Next caller, please.
Hi there, my name is Charmin. I'm the Political Director of Equality Labs, and I'm calling in support of the resolution that affirms San Francisco is a welcoming city for India's Muslims and caste-oppressed communities. I am a Bangladeshi Muslim, and I have been called a termite, a cockroach, an illegal, an infiltrator, and I really hear what it means to be bringing on genocide across India's Muslims and caste-oppressed communities. The BJP is a Hindu nationalist government that is bent on creating Islamophobic policies that is going to create the largest stateless population of people in the world. We are talking about a resolution that is going to bring on an important intervention that is going to be international condemnation that shows that this detrimental policy is Islamophobic, and San Francisco will not support the Indian government's persecution of Muslims and caste-oppressed people. The UN has already said that the CAA is fundamentally discriminatory, and the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom warns that if the CAA was passed, it would recommend that the U.S. government should consider sanctions. This resolution will be a sign of assurance to the entirety of the Bay Area South Asian American community that you all will continue to welcome the most vulnerable. There are so many survivors of genocide who live in the Bay Area. This troubling turn makes us relive old horrors, and it's vital to know that San Francisco is a sanctuary city for all South Asian Americans. This CAA is an integral part of the Modi government's process of creating the largest detention networks in the world. It will impact all vulnerable communities, and the reality is that no one wants to be on the side promoting a genocide, especially given that Trump and Modi's relationship is only getting stronger with a $3 billion arms deal, while Trump watched a pogrom happen in Delhi in February of this year. So I really urge the commissioners to vote yes and stand in solidarity with Indian Muslims and caste-oppressed.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Supervisors. I would like to start by thanking you for your service at this late hour. My name is Roland Brabran. I live in South San Jose, and I get 4 Caltrain trains a day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. Same trains are now offering to run another 3 trains in the morning and another 3 in the evening, for a total of 10 trains a day, for the princely sum of only $56 million a year. So I would like to start by thanking Supervisors Walton and Peskin for their leadership collaborating with Supervisor Cindy Chavez on a resolution that would bring Caltrain leadership to the 21st century. I also appreciate Supervisor Haney's position because the taxpayers of Santa Clara County also want the DTX as soon as possible. But we're never going to get anywhere as long as Caltrain is managed by a dysfunctional and bankrupt mid-peninsula bus operator. In closing, I encourage you to reach out to MUNI and the VTA and ask them if they could collaborate on delivering superior bus service in San Mateo County. If we were to reallocate the massive transportation funding being wasted by Transit on a daily basis, if this came to pass, Caltrain governance issues would be resolved once and for all by new management familiar with basic passenger rail economics. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. We have 38 members of the public listening and 22 in the queue. Welcome, caller.
Hi, supervisors. My name is Barnali, and I'm here to speak in support of Agenda Item 47, Resolution 20071, opposing India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act. I'm a Bay Area resident. I'm originally from India, who grew up Hindu, and I'm deeply troubled by what is happening in my homeland. I hear from my Muslim siblings about how they're afraid for themselves, for their friends and their families. Many folks live in mixed status families, and there is a fear of being torn apart. And even though these actions might be impractical to fully implement in a country of over 1.3 billion, there are already detention camps, and it has already done the work of creating fear and destabilizing communities. And we are not exaggerating when we say that these actions have also advanced many of the steps that eventually lead to genocide, including classification, discrimination, organization, and polarization. Now, living here, I know that there are others like me that often feel helpless, that we can't do much, but I believe that actions like the one you're about to take today can go a long way in letting the BJP government in India know that the world is watching. With the global rise of Islamophobia and fascism, this can send a message to Muslim folks that live among us or in my homeland that they have our support. It's on all of us to speak out against the scapegoating of minorities, attacks on due process, and the mass denaturalization and disenfranchisement of perceived political enemies, whether they're happening here in the US or in India. I believe that this resolution is aligned with the stated values of the city of San Francisco as a sanctuary city and a welcoming city. And I urge you to pass the resolution 20071 unanimously and send a strong message. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Prashant and I'm a resident of Seattle, and I support Supervisor Mark's resolution opposing India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act. That's the resolution 200771. The Citizenship Amendment Act is an integral part of BJP government process of creating stateless population, making it important for supervisors to vote yes on this resolution and stand in solidarity with hundreds of millions who are standing against the Islamophobia and detention camps. There are many survivors of genocide from all over South Asia that have made Bay Area home. This will be a sign of assurance to the entirety of the South Asian American community that San Francisco will continue to welcome the most vulnerable people. When genocidal campaigns begin, one important intervention is international condemnation. I urge you to vote yes on this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Next speaker, please.
Hello, supervisors. Today I wanted to call upon you to say thank you for previously endorsing and in support of 200-515. I really do believe that the San Francisco City Police and sheriffs are in desperate need of reduction.
Sir, I'm pausing your time.
Now.
Sir, I'm pausing your time. I'm sorry. That item is not eligible for you to speak on this evening. It has already had its public comment at committee.
Understood, but you're now seeing it again for the supervisors?
No, this is when they act on the item. The committee is where the public comment occurred, just for future reference for you. We welcome all your comments at committee. But if you wanted to share other issues with us, please feel free and I'll start your time.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. You have 1 minute and 38 seconds left.
Thanks, supervisors, tonight for calling to see public transit taxation go on the ballot. I don't agree with the Caltrain tax as it sits. I think that it's important that that program be allocated to be modern transit. I would like to see it be part of the BART system. I would like to see it be more heavily integrated into the city. I don't think that the management structure of Caltrain is responsive to the needs of the community. I think long-term, the BART system needs to be integrated and be run at all hours. I don't see Caltrain being responsive to those demands. I see our modern metropolitan needing those modern transit systems. I don't see Caltrain being responsive to those demands. So when I ask whether I think Caltrain is a good use of our money as a constituent, I don't think so. I do think it should go on the ballot. I do think we should have a public conversation about it. But I think that the public conversation should be how to reform it into the system that we need in this community, rather than the problem that it is for this community, which I don't think it serves us well in its current form. And I think you're seeing broad agreement with that across the political spectrum. But I think for those sort of large changes to occur, for that program to be reintegrated into somewhere else, the public dialogue of the voters saying, no, this isn't how we fund it, and this isn't the organization that we fund, needs to and probably will now occur, especially now that money is especially tight and that's structured as an additional tax. I hope BART gets an opportunity and expects the opportunity to purchase Caltrain.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate your flexibility this evening. Thank you for your comments. Before the next caller is put through, I'll just indicate that the charter amendments on the agenda today are not eligible for public comment, but you can speak about other things generally. Okay, operations, please send the next caller through. Welcome, caller. You have up to 2 minutes.
Hello. My name is Nesbitt Crutchfield. I would like to thank the entire board for addressing the issue dealing with collaboration between San Francisco and the Cuba Medical Institutes. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but it's the resolution that was proposed by Supervisor Ronan. My name is Nesbitt Crutchfield. I'm a Bay Area resident, and I'm a black man, an elderly black man who is very, very invested in seeing that this resolution is passed because it deals with saving lives. My wife has worked in San Francisco for over 35 years, and so we are very, very invested in what our Board of Supervisors does. I'm co-director of the Bay Area Vincent Ramos Brigade and the National Vincent Ramos Brigade, and I support San Francisco and Cuba's collaboration on medical issues. It's very important to me as an 80-year-old black man who has a number of pre-existing conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, to deal with and to hope that there can be some collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba so that a number of antivirals such as interferon alpha-2b and other medical medications can be discussed, can be utilized, and can be brought to the people here. It's important that San Francisco, as a world-class medical institution city, join with Cuba to discuss various different medical collaborations and for this type of agreement. Cuba has over 2,300 medical
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
personnel
your
who are all over
comments.
the world.
Sir, thank you for your comments. We appreciate you tuning in this evening and giving us your comments. Operations, next caller, please. Welcome, caller.
Hello?
We can hear you. Welcome.
Okay. No, I'm calling on behalf of the medical collaboration and cooperation with Cuba, number 48, 200773. My name is David Paul. I've worked as a nurse practitioner at San Francisco General for over 35 years. I've seen how important it is to have collaboration between different medical services to address the complex health needs of our vulnerable population. Given the global nature of this global pandemic, it is vital to have this collaboration between nations, which this resolution simply calls for. Cuba has made great progress in developing antiviral medications to treat seriously ill COVID patients, advanced lung cancer, and has a medication successfully preventing amputations due to diabetic ulcers. All of these are being used by other countries, but denied to our population by our own government. These diseases are affecting thousands of people in this country, with rates of COVID infections and amputations in diabetics being the highest among the African American and Latino communities. Cuba has a very highly respected biotech industry, and cooperation between our scientific institutions was beginning under Obama, but is now being blocked by our own government. Something is very wrong when a country can send weapons of war all over the world, but blocks medical expertise and treatments used to treat COVID patients. Access to healthcare should not depend on one's political views or how one's ability to pay. This is a national issue, but it's important to San Francisco because it's a policy that does affect the public health of our citizens by denying access to valuable research and treatments for illnesses that our community is suffering from. We simply urge you to take the moral stance to support this resolution, calling for the end to the restrictions that are blocking this needed medical cooperation. San Francisco has a proud history of taking the lead on many social issues, helping to shape a more just approach throughout the whole country. And this is another opportunity to do that again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Next speaker, please. There are 35 listeners and 17 members of the public in the queue. Welcome, caller.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hello, Supervisors. My name is Adolfo Velasquez, born and raised in San Francisco's Mission District and currently live in Noe Valley. I am the current chair of EOPS, Social Justice and Equity Academic Program at City College, and speak today to strongly urge you to pass a resolution promoting the medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba. In 2011, I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer and had surgery right after to remove my left kidney. The conversation at the time with my oncologist was buying time. That summer of 2011, I learned that Cuba had developed a homeopathic medicine called Vitatox to treat cancer. I told my oncologist about it, but she had no information because there was no data here in the U.S. Vitatox has shown to have anti-inflammatory and pain relief properties and able to delay tumor growth in some cancer patients. In my almost 10-year journey with cancer, I've had several treatments, most recently immunotherapy, radiation, and 3 surgeries, most recently brain surgery in August of 2019. So what remains consistent has been my usage of Cuba's Vitatox. With kidney cancer, the 5-year survival rate is less than 12%. I cannot find data on 10-year survival rates. When people ask me, how do I know it works? My response is, I don't know, but I'm here to talk about it. In closing, after the Obama administration softened relations with Cuba, the biotech company Roswell Park from New York flew to Cuba and signed an agreement to study and test the Cuba-developed immunotherapy called Simovax, which is now in phase 3 clinical studies and is being used with the immunotherapy that I used 3 years ago and showing positive results. That's why it's so important to pass this resolution and send the message to Washington to collaborate with Cuba and end the blockade. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Next speaker, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, supervisors. My name is Mirza Madra, and I'm speaking on item number 47. I'm a South Asian American, and I've been a resident of San Francisco for the last 25 years. And I support Supervisor Mar's resolution opposing India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act, affirming our city as a welcoming city for India's Muslims and caste-oppressed communities. The Bay Area has been home to many survivors of genocide, as well as refugees. I have family who escaped genocide in India after the 1987 anti-Sikh riots, and they have found safety and built their lives in San Francisco. Trump's Islamophobic and xenophobic agenda has emboldened other nationalists around the world to justify the persecution of marginalized communities. India's BJP government has a history of looking at the tactics of fascist Nazis and has already integrated the use of concentration camps against Muslims. The CAA and NRC not only lays the foundation for genocide, but legalizes it. I urge you to vote yes on Resolution 200771 to condemn India's genocidal campaign. It is our duty to extend this city's legacy of acceptance and dignity to Muslim and caste-oppressed Indians. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Pilpel, we can. Welcome.
It is David Pilpel. Just wanted to report that in the last few days I've been involved in several city meetings via different technologies between COIT, capital planning, an MTA engineering hearing, ballot simplification, the MTA board, and to varying degrees of success. But really the gold standard around town right now is the Board of Supervisors. All of the work that Madam Clerk and her staff do from early morning to late at night really facilitate public involvement and public comment, as I've heard in the last few minutes from the great variety of important and interesting public comments that have been offered. I also want to say with regard to the MTA, I'm not pleased about their proposed service restoration. I think it includes some areas of town, which is good, but excludes other areas and creates safety hazards and risks with the proposed transfers at Church and Market and West Portal. And I will be looking in the next week to find a way to bring that before you, perhaps by way of appeal. So we may have a longer discussion about that in the future. I also wanted to take just a brief moment to recognize the memory of Harry Britt and Jane Morrison, both of whom were wonderful people in this city, and the city is a loss and much less interesting without them. Thank you, and look forward to further talks in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and for your compliments to all of the staff in the office of the Clerk of the Board. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
Hello. Yes, hi. It's difficult to know when you're up. I want to thank the board for their stamina and thank the organizing talents of the people supporting justice in South Asia. But I'm here actually to speak on the issue that's being put forth by Supervisor Ronan that has regards to Cuba. My name's Catherine Cusick. I'm speaking in support of the resolution. I worked at St. Luke's for 10 years as a PA in surgery. Oh, yes, some of you know me. And have actually worked in Cuba in their hospitals several times. And I go there a couple of times a year, have stayed in touch with healthcare service there. I would like to say that it certainly is in our history to vote on issues such as this. We voted on the issue of El Salvador many, many years ago, supporting the people of El Salvador. And I hope we support in this issue the rights of the people of San Francisco as well as Cuba. I have seen the Cubans do low blood loss surgery so that they don't have to have a transfusion after a large surgery the way we have to here. I have seen the biomedical development that they have there, which is really impressive. As you know, they may be one of the first to come up with some treatment for COVID-19. They just celebrated 1 week free of COVID-19 infections, even though they have visitors, of course, from Spain, France, and every other hotspot in the country. I urge you to support this, to take a good look at the resolution. It's certainly to the benefit of San Franciscans if we can have cooperation with Cuba despite our federal government, and it would be to the benefit of the people of Cuba to have interactions with us. If I can just finish this, Cuba lacks many things. They can keep a 56 Chevy running, but not a Siemens ventilator because they don't have the money for parts, but they do have a doctor on every block. And I've seen doctors say, "Buenos días, señora, ¿cómo está tu tía?" "Good morning, señora. How's your aunt doing?" What's the last time your doctor asked you about your family? So in conclusion, thank you for introducing this, Supervisor Ronan. I'm in your district and very proud of you. And thank you, supervisors, for being willing to listen to the public. That's the end of my comments.
Great. Good to hear from you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Harry Bernstein. The Balboa Reservoir project, which has been aimed in your direction for years, will be coming to two board committees next week, Monday and Wednesday. In June 1988, Prop L authorized the construction of 203 houses. It also offered to set aside 16 acres of the college's west campus for a, quote, future city college if this property is ever declared surplus. The water department at that time repeatedly stated that it needs this property known as the North Basin and will never declare it surplus. And that is one of the reasons that the college long relied on the PUC-owned reservoir lot when it designed the Performing Arts Education Center. They took the PUC at their word. And the North Basin of that time is the lower reservoir lot of today where the construction is being planned. Also, the proposed sale of the Balboa Reservoir is rather controversial because of the deeply discounted sale price of less than $16 a square foot in San Francisco, and the request for the board to waive the requirement to appraise city-owned land being sold that is valued over $10,000. The land should be sold for a price of at least 90% of the Director of Property's appraisal for such property, according to Administrative Code 23.3. But if the board waives the required appraisal, how can you know if the property is being sold for a valid price? This does not compute. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, thank you for letting me in. And my name is Anwar Beg Mirza, and I am calling to urge you to vote in favor of Resolution 200771 and categorically opposing India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens, NRC, and the Citizen Amendment Act. The CAA blatantly discriminates against Muslims, among others, by enabling only certain migrants from certain religious minorities to acquire Indian citizenship. The NRC further cements systematic oppression by requiring a register documenting the citizenship of more than 1.3 billion people in the country so that religious and ethnic minorities and migrants may be identified and deported. I understand that there has been some discussion as to whether non-binding resolution condemning oppression in other parts of the world are worth the San Francisco City Board's time. To the South Asian community of San Francisco, these issues are extremely close to home regardless of religion and caste. Resolutions like this provide a vital opportunity to demonstrate that their communities matter and that the world is taking notice of their plight. And for this resolution, there is an obvious parallel to these laws and what the current U.S. federal government is attempting to achieve in its immigration policies. The city board may have heard from a vocal minority opposing American intervention in this situation in India, but such efforts mark the intended discriminatory and oppressive impact of CAA and NRC. We urge the Council to vote in favor and provide some sunlight on this issue. I hope you will vote in favor of Resolution 200771. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hello. Yeah. Dear San Francisco Board of Supervisors, my name is Ahsan Khan, and I'm a resident of San Francisco Bay Area from last 20 years. I'm calling to express support for San Francisco City Resolution number 200771. First, I wanted to express my deepest gratitude for bringing this resolution condemning India's divisive and discriminatory CAA Act and expressing solidarity with the millions of minorities as well as secular-minded citizens from India. I'll focus on some of the human rights organizations which have expressed concern on this. Amnesty International stated the day after the law was passed is that the Citizenship Amendment Act legitimizes discrimination on the basis of religion and stands in clear violations of the Constitution of India and international human rights law. Do not believe the stated objective that it purports to be inclusionary while it is otherwise and exclusionary, which is proven recently in Assam, where the law excluded more than 1.9 million people. That's the equivalent of rendering stateless every single person in San Francisco and San Jose. The process has been arbitrary, unfair, and haphazard. United Nations Human Rights Commissioner condemned this act and called it fundamentally discriminatory. USCIRF has called upon the U.S. government to designate India as a country of particular concern just because of its religious violations taking place. The Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden last month said that he was disappointed by the steps taken by the government of India. He said these measures were inconsistent with the country's long tradition of secularism and with sustaining a multi-ethnic and multi-religious democracy. British government has also called CAA clearly divisive. All in all, India's passage of the CAA coupled with NRC poses a grave threat to India's pluralism and threatens minorities, particularly Muslims, with an ongoing fear of losing their identity as Indians. I urge passage of this resolution and send a message to the government of India that San Francisco's residents stand with minorities in India. I wish you Godspeed in passing this resolution, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. We have about 15 individuals waiting in line and about 35 listening. If you are interested in getting in line, just press *3 on your phone. All right, operations, please allow the next caller to speak.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ijaz Naqvi, and thanks for letting me speak. I'm a physician practicing in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, for the past 35 years or so. And I'm calling in to support the resolution number 200771 against the NRC and CAA. And the city of San Francisco is seen as a beacon of light around the world, especially when it comes to matters such as social justice, equality, and freedom of speech and freedom of practice and religion. And we firmly believe that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I know a lot of the speakers have talked about the legality and genocide, but I would like to talk from a human perspective and from a human heart. This afternoon, my cat actually hunted down a bird and killed it and was eating it. And I watched it in horror, and it was painful to see a bird actually just dying in front of me. And I just cannot imagine as a human anywhere, meeting the same fate. And we have seen so many pictures as if a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I've seen pictures of people getting their faces burned and their ashes thrown at them only because they were Muslims. I was talking to one of my rabbi friends about this incident when she talked about how some of the male Muslims are asked to drop their pants down by mobs only to see if they are circumcised. And if they are, they're actually abused and killed and then meet other fates. And she said that this is a textbook Nazi practice because this is exactly what Nazis were doing to the Jews, same exact thing. So they're using the same playbook as the Nazis are.
And
Thank you
I've
for your
seen the
comments,
pictures
sir.
of some of the mails.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller. You have up to 2 minutes.
Hi, thanks, and appreciate the Board of Supervisors of San Francisco for taking this item agenda number 47, wherein they are going to basically hold CAA and NRC, the passage of CAA and NRC resolutions in India. We are condemning that, and I would like to applaud their bravery and conscience in the fact that other cities in the United States have already done that. And just wanted to speak from a perspective of how this will impact the larger population of India. India has about 200 million Muslims, and they form about 20% of the population there. And also, they have been living there for centuries, and they have lived side by side with their non-Muslim neighbors. But of late, the right-wing Hindu nationalist forces in India have been on the surge, and the various programs that have happened in the last 20, 25 years under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, first in Gujarat and now most recently in Delhi and all along the way. This is disturbing for India-US relations at its core, because not only India is a growing economy, but also a very strategic partner for United States. And it is also in United States' interest to safeguard the secular, pluralistic, and the growing force that India is to counterbalance China. So from that perspective, we believe that India needs to grow, but not without taking care of its minorities and the underprivileged and the backward classes that it has so long neglected. So I urge all the supervisors to pass this resolution, item number 47-200-771, and I congratulate them on taking up this agenda today. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. Operations. Next speaker, please.
Thank you for having me on this evening. This is Joe Kunzler, K-U-N-Z-L-E-R. Since you got several emails about Caltrain, and I want to, as I emailed you, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the same month we're going to take Caltrain, mostly from your wonderful city to the airport. I have read Rachel Swan's and Swankin areas journals in the San Francisco Chronicle. As Supervisor Stephanie knows, I'm trying to keep Joe on the Twitters. I'm hopeful Supervisor Stephanie appreciates my standing for her, and she is the best supervisor who's taken on the NRA and is the most beautiful woman in San Francisco politics. And so I excuse Supervisor Stephanie from these comments, but I really don't think the Board of Supervisors should be giving Caltrain lectures about governance. One of you claimed that the Moody Metro line had more writers than Caltrain. Actually, in 2018, Caltrain had 65,000 writers and change. Moody Inline had only 43,000. Furthermore, your meeting today has covered actual corruption, deputies taking God-here fights, and you wasted time on utility adult activities. As the brave Supervisor Stephanie, I want to give her this too said today. Quote, I find it hard to believe that what we need is more managers, information technology, human resources, or financial professionals. End quote. Yet some of you want to add more management to Caltrain. I think we should just focus on saving Caltrain. It's a very good transit system. Once it's electrified, it's going to be absolutely awesome and electric. It's like, it's just going to be state of the art, and that's the reason why people will want to fly down and ride it. You've got a heck of a transit system with BART and Mooney, and I hope those things come back. All my best to Supervisor Stephanie and her colleagues. I ask that you please let voters decide on Caltrain. And again, I am trying to keep Joe on the Twitters, and I just want to wish all of you well through this difficult time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Diya Gomez-Reeves. I'm a doctor. In fact, I'm a graduate of UCSF Medical School. My son and his wife live in Supervisor Ronan's district. I'm asking you to unanimously support Supervisors Ronan and Peskin's item 48, promoting medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba. Cuba has been effectively able to control the COVID-19 pandemic. The numbers bear this out. In the past week, in a population of 11 million, they've had 17 new infections only and no COVID deaths. And this is with extensive testing based on thorough contact tracing. I'd like to see San Francisco lead the way in the U.S. using Cuban expertise to control the pandemic. As one of the earlier speakers said, this is about saving lives. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, next caller, please.
Hi. So this evening, I'd like to address a number of things. First off, I'd like to address the comment policy. I find it somewhat concerning that we're restricted on what we may and may not comment on. I understand that there are certain restrictions due to the Brown Act, but I don't understand why we aren't given a chance to comment on the individual items at the time they're brought to order, and then I think that people should be able to make comments on them afterwards. And so, I find the restrictions on the comments to be very disappointing. So then I'd also like to echo concerns about public transit. Muni is still very difficult to use. I still have no idea what buses are running and when they're running. Caltrain, most people who live in the city, Caltrain, I've taken Caltrain before, and honestly, I don't find it very useful, and I don't see, for me, most of the time, I use Muni, I use BART, but Caltrain, it's just not that great of a way to get to the South Bay, and so I don't think sinking more money is a good way of putting. I mean, I guess if you want to put maybe to the voters, that's fine. But
Ma'am,
and then also on this issue
Ma'am, I'm going to invite you to my virtual office hours on Friday, and I'm happy to give a thorough explanation to anyone who calls in at the clerk's office virtual office hours, and we can talk about that. Happy to do so. Thank you for your comments. Operations, I understand we have 12 members of the public in the queue, and we have 28 members listening. If members who are listening want to get in the queue, now's a good time to do so. Please press *3, and operations, please send the next caller through.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 42 USC 1983. We're not going to start cussing yet because then I'll get cut off, even though that's a violation of the Brown Act. Let's not get started. I've been up since 3 in the morning, but I've been watching this, sitting on my ass since 2 to speak. Any other council, board, meeting, you get to speak at the beginning because the public, they care about the public. They recognize our rights. They recognize our feelings. We're not the ones that are public servants getting paid to sit through these meetings. That's you. That's your job. You're my elected official. You work for me. Now, the Board of Education, they've learned about the Brown Act. One day, you will get screwed over by a Brown Act lawsuit. The city of Los Angeles paid Michael Hunt $240, yeah, 200, something like that, over $200,000 in damages because they violated his rights. Don't let it happen to you. 42 USC 1983. Fuck you!
Thank you for your comments. Is there another caller on the line? Operations, please send them through.
Hello, good evening, and I'm speaking to the resolution promoting medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba. Good evening, my name is Vicky Legion, and I currently work with seniors in District 7 and District 11. I'm an essential worker with a community living campaign that advocates for San Francisco seniors and disabled individuals. In honor of them and my mother, Carmen Trezvina, who was born in Cuba and died in San Francisco, I strongly support the resolution promoting medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba. And I totally urge the board to support it too as we continue to lose the fight with COVID. I've seen firsthand the effect that the COVID-19 has had on our seniors medically and the impact it has taken on their mental health. The COVID has proven that it willingly crosses class, racial, religious, gender, and other lines, and does not discriminate when doling out isolation, fear, loneliness, and anxiety to this very vital population. The unpredictability of COVID has forced a generation who has worked so hard and given so much to our communities to suffer behind closed doors, afraid to even see their grandchildren. In my opinion, this is elder abuse. To not do everything possible to relieve our parents, aunts, uncles, and grandparents suffering from feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and even uselessness. The seniors remain isolated from family and friends they have made in groups such as the Community Connector programs, facilitated by my organization, the Community Living Campaign. Last night, I sent a video of one of our get-togethers to a senior who mailed me back right away that it brought her to tears because she missed her group so much. We reject our San Francisco values.
Thank you for your
as a proud native.
Thank you. Operations, please unmute the next caller. Welcome, caller.
Hi, thank you. This is Adam from District 6. I wanted to call in and talk briefly about cannabis storefronts, wanting the board to consider the fact that 35% of all cannabis storefronts in the entire city and county of San Francisco are in District 6. 71% of on-site consumption storefronts are located in SOMA at 71%. We already have an overabundance of cannabis stores in the district here. Just like liquor licenses, these should be spread evenly across the city. District 6 shouldn't be considered a recreational party district for other citizens to use when they want to come and buy cannabis, but don't want to have the stores near their home. Those of us who live here already have plenty of stores near our home. We don't need more. We don't need to have a store on every other block. Right now, we've got one store trying to go up next, just around the corner from a kid's karate shop. There's already one store a block from the Navigation Center, and another one is trying to go up another block from that, where they're trying to prey on the most needy. I'm asking the board members to please consider a moratorium on new cannabis storefronts in District 6 until there is more equitable distribution across San Francisco. There is precedent for this. I know supervisors have tried to limit these stores in their districts. And I know that Chinatown has gotten an exception to block all cannabis stores in their neighborhood. We're not asking for a total ban, but a moratorium until there's a more equitable distribution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome, caller.
Hi, this is Balu Velanki. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Today, I would like to thank the supervisors for bringing up Resolution 47, that is 200771. I'm talking in favor of this resolution. This is an extremely important act by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, speaking out loudly and clearly against any sort of discrimination and any sort of discriminatory acts that would result in millions of people who would become stateless if these two, the National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act, are implemented to the fullest. We have also known that the Indian government, the current Indian government, is building detention centers to house people who do not have citizenship at the end of the implementation of National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act. This is very concerning, and as a citizen of San Francisco and with parents living in India, I believe that we, as a city of San Francisco, speaking up loudly and clearly against this act would send a strong message to our allies, because I think of India and United States as allies, that as friends, we are ready to speak out when our friends do something wrong. I also want to echo what the previous caller has said about having this comment section at such a late hour. I would strongly urge to set up an established time for public comments rather than making people wait from 3 p.m. all the way until 9 p.m. Please consider this as a public service and set up an established time for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. There are 25 listeners and 10 members of the public in the queue. Operations, please unmute the next speaker.
Hello, my name is Rita Baruch. I'm calling you on behalf of Richmond, California's Regla Cuba Friendship Committee. We passed unanimously this important resolution promoting scientific and medical collaboration between Cuba and San Francisco. As you've heard from many callers tonight, this is something that the residents of San Francisco very much deserve. As a public health professional, for 22 years, I provided services to San Francisco General patients, Mission Neighborhood Health Center, Native American Health Center, and the Children's Council. I know how much San Francisco residents can benefit from the advanced treatments developed by Cuban biotech scientists. I have also visited the biotech institutions in Havana and heard from leading members of their public health, vice ministers of public health, on the work they're doing. I also collaborate nationally with the Saving Lives campaign, of which this resolution is part. I've spoken with representatives from Minnesota, Massachusetts, Montana, Chicago, and Sacramento. Everyone is preparing to pass resolutions. They're looking to San Francisco for unanimous support on this. Why shouldn't we all have access to cutting-edge research and effective treatments for this terrible virus? So thank you for your support and your long hours of work. On behalf of the Richmond Regla Friendship Committee, please vote yes to make San Francisco a strong leader in this growing movement. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, please send the next caller through.
Hello, supervisors. My name is Kushbu Gulati. I am a resident of San Francisco and a member of the Indian diaspora, and I'm here to speak on item number 47 in support of Supervisors Supervisor Mar's resolution opposing India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act, Resolution 200771. It is so important that the city of San Francisco show solidarity with Muslim and caste-oppressed communities, as many of these communities find home here in SF and the Bay Area. SF needs to set an international example through this resolution, exclaiming the National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act are repulsive laws that are being used to dehumanize and hurt Muslim and caste-oppressed communities in India. The right-wing BJP government is using the Citizenship Amendment Act to create a stateless population in which detention camps have been created to persecute minorities, and violent Islamophobia is being normalized and accepted. Millions of lives are on the line because of these acts and the rise of fascism. This global issue directly affects local issues here in SF, as these Islamophobic and casteist ideologies are also practiced in the U.S. and are upheld by Trump's racist and anti-immigrant government. I urge you all to vote yes on this resolution that denounces state-sponsored violence. If we are to be consistent and aligned with the values of social justice and human rights that SF has stood by, then it is your moral duty to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome, caller. You have up to 2 minutes.
Good evening. I am speaking in support of the resolution calling for medical collaboration with Cuba. My name is Everardo Gonzalez, and I'm a graduate student at the University of San Francisco and studying to be a high school educator. I currently reside in East Palo Alto, but San Francisco has been my second home for several years now. My family and I are renters. We lost our home 17 years in the last recession. We share food and split bills and rent to try to offset the high cost of living. But due to the pandemic, most of the adults in my household are currently unemployed. My father has arthritis, is a pre-diabetic, and unable to work. My stepmother is an essential worker at Home Depot and works overtime to make up her lost income. Space here is tight. We even converted the living room into a bedroom for my siblings, and my father moved into a van parked in the driveway. My uncle has respiratory problems caused by decades of cigarette smoking and has a daughter with autoimmune illness and helps care for his youngest grandson. I even have a nephew that stays with us with asthma. There are others with pre-existing conditions that place them at a higher risk of infection and COVID-19 related illness. The truth is we are a medical emergency away from financial ruin. And as renters, we are aware of the looming threat of eviction. Just last year, we received a 2-month eviction notice from the landlord who was looking to cash out on his real estate investment. He changed his mind, but we may not be as lucky next time. There are expiration dates on the benefits keeping us afloat, especially the moratorium on evictions and utility shutoffs, but the virus is not expiring anytime soon, which makes the response from our local governments all the more important. By drawing on Cuba's medical expertise, San Francisco will be better equipped to take proactive measures for Black and brown families, disproportionately dying at alarming rates. Cuban medicine, like interferon, that naturally boosts the body's immune system, can keep families like mine healthier, together, and alive. Please vote yes for medical cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your personal story. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Samina Usman, and I wanted to thank Supervisor Mar and the other co-sponsors of item number 47, which is file number 200771. I wanted to thank them for introducing this very important resolution, given that there has been a tremendous amount of human rights violations conducted in India. I am also calling so I'm a resident of the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm also calling as a DNC delegate who worked on an amendment to the DNC platform, which involves, which is regarding India. And so I want to read you the amendment that both me and numerous other delegates drafted and approved. So here it is. While we wish to build upon our long-term strategic partnership with India, we object to the treatment of its minorities, especially Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Dalits who have been under increasing sectarian attacks. Hindu supremacist forces threaten India's unity and integrity. As noted in reports of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Commission of International Religious Freedom, we affirm the designation of India as a country of particular concern due to a series of violations of religious freedom, and will work to persuade India to repeal its divisive Citizenship Amendment Act and the National Register of Citizens that discriminates against Muslims. India must dismantle the detention centers built to house millions of Muslims declared as aliens, and to withdraw plans to seek decades-old proof of citizenship from its 1.3 billion people. Again, these policies are inconsistent with the San Francisco values and its history as a welcoming city for South Asian communities. We truly, need to stand with our values and stand against these terrible policies and practices by India. Thank you very much.
Oh, next speaker, please. Thank you.
Hi, Supervisors. This is Kedar. I'm calling in support of the resolution opposing India's National Registry of Citizens and the Citizenship Amendment Act, which together lay the legal foundation to exclude citizenship to millions of Indian Muslims based on their religion. They will create the largest stateless population in history and bring us a step closer to the BJP government's vision of an India exclusively for Hindus, and a step closer to complete genocide against Muslims, Dalits, and other religious minorities. As a Bay Area native of Indian origin, I urge you to vote yes on this resolution and stand in solidarity with millions who are standing up against Islamophobia and detention camps. There are many survivors of genocide in South Asia, in the Bay Area, and I believe the people of SF have the moral courage to stand up to this global wave of Islamophobia. We cannot be complicit in genocide. We cannot remain silent. Please vote yes on 200771. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Speaker. Before the next caller is unmuted, there are 5 callers in the queue, and there are 22 callers listening. This is the last call. If you are interested in speaking this evening, please press *3 and line up in the queue. We will take this grouping all the way till the end. Okay, please unmute the next speaker. Welcome, caller. You have up to 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, the Board of Supervisors, for giving me this opportunity to speak on Resolution 47, number 200771. My name is Zafar, and I have been a 12-year resident of the San Francisco Bay Area. This resolution is very important, not just for India, but for human rights everywhere around the world. As a responsible member of the American South Asian community, this issue is very important because India has a deep technological and economic relationship with Silicon Valley and San Francisco in particular. This is why this resolution is going to have a huge impact and send a strong message to India's fascist government. The CAA and NRC is discriminatory and devised solely to target India's 200 million minority. The brutal repression unleashed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government on peaceful protesters and members of the minority community clearly demonstrate that Mr. Modi, his government, and his Hindu Nationalist Party, the BJP, are driven by hate and their long-held belief that India should become a Hindu nation and its minorities should be rendered as stateless second-class citizens with reduced civil rights. Mr. Modi is making a mockery of India's once independent judiciary and criminal prosecution system, drawing condemnation from USCIRF and United Nations. I urge the Supervisor Council to vote in favor of Resolution 200771. I congratulate them for this courage to speak the truth. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, please unmute the next speaker.
Hello, good evening. My name is Syed Ahmed. I moved to the city in the year 2000. I'm calling in to support Supervisor Marsh, Resolution 200771. the resolution which condemns Indian government for the human rights abuses and its discriminatory laws. I would like to talk about horrific violence carried out by Hindu mobs linked to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP against Muslims in India's capital, New Delhi, in February. More than 50 people died in that violence, 2/3 of them Muslims. The Delhi Minorities Commission, a statutory body, has concluded that Mr. Modi's police actively participated in the violence. It has been internationally reported, including the New York Times, that the violence was incited by a gentleman named Kapil Mishra, a local leader of the Mr. Modi's BJP party. Yet the police has refused to arrest him despite court orders. Instead, the police have arrested hundreds of Muslims on false charges of carrying out the violence despite. In May, a Delhi judge pointed out the disturbing fact that the investigation was targeted towards one end. India's news media have reported that mass arrests of Muslims have been ordered by Home Minister or Ministry of Homeland Security, Amit Shah, who is Mr. Modi's closest confidant and was once accused of masterminding a string of extrajudicial killings of Muslims. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, a bipartisan appointed federal commission, has already called upon U.S. government to sanction Mr. Shah for his role in bringing the CAA. Imagine being born during the Holocaust, right, and did not get any chance to prevent the killings of millions of Jews. My fellow citizens, this is an opportunity to prevent another Holocaust.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Vicky Legion, and I'm urging you to co-sponsor the resolution calling for medical cooperation with Cuba. I taught public health for 25 years at City College of San Francisco and was a lecturer at San Francisco State. Cuba has been asked to send their COVID experts out to 28 countries around the world working in coronavirus hotspots. But because of the U.S. blockade, we're not allowed to receive these experts or to import Cuba's advanced medications or their public health methods. So the Bay Area and Cuba have roughly similar sized populations, but I want you to understand the difference in the level of virus control. So last Sunday, the Bay Area passed 40,000 COVID infections for the first time. And Cuba has 2,500, which is 1/16 the number. That one of the big reasons for that difference is the Cuban biotech industry that has a medication that's the top drug in the Chinese formulary for treating coronavirus and is also used preventively to prevent infections among Chinese health workers. But again, under the U.S. blockade, our health workers can't get access to the drug, and people who are in critical care can't be treated with this drug, interferon. So we know that we need to work together with Cuba, and we thank you for co-sponsoring the resolution for medical cooperation between San Francisco, a medical powerhouse, and Cuba, a medical powerhouse. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome, caller.
Yes. So I would like to address the issue of San Francisco condemning the actions of other nations and I guess international. I don't think that it's really the role of San Francisco to sort of take this diplomatic role. I feel like it's a city government and it should be focused on municipal issues like getting the public transit running. And there are local issues that the city should be focused on rather than what is going on in some other part of the world. You know, we have Congress that, you know, makes treaties and does all these other things, and that's why we have Congress, to do these sorts of things. So I don't see why the Board of Supervisors has taken it upon themselves to decide that they're going to play a role in international relations. There's just really no need for it, and we need the Board of Supervisors to be focused on local issues. So I would strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to stay focused on local issues and get the local issues to work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, this is Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hi, so I'm Lynn. I'm a student at City College of San Francisco. I'm a resident of District 4. I go to school in District 7, and I work at District 9 in a family restaurant in the Mission. And so, I'm here to support the resolution in promoting medical and scientific collaboration between San Francisco and Cuba. COVID has impacted our communities greatly, and the conditions of COVID have impacted those here at me, home and abroad. And so also personally, my mom has asthma, and so if she were to be, impacted or be exposed, would likely not survive. So, amidst working at our family restaurant in the Mission out of necessity, we do our best to take precaution and participate in community efforts that are responding to the crisis locally impacting our community. And so right now we see cases are rising in various cities, and as a city of SF, it tries to contribute following protocols. And we know that this alone will not address the long-term crisis that is disproportionately impacting Black and Latinx communities, elders, frontline health workers. And so we must really recognize the advancements in medicine that the medical brigades of Cuba have made. It is in this effort of collaboration that addresses the long-term COVID crisis. Right now, this is a social justice issue, right? The most vulnerable are seeking assistance locally. Black and Latinx communities are disproportionately impacted, the Filipino community, as well as they make up a lot of the frontline healthcare workers. And so a lot of us locally, city, and internationally are seeking assistance. And over 50 countries have requested the assistance and expertise from the Cuban medical brigades and seeking collaboration. And so the path towards collaboration and addressing this crisis and solution together locally from San Francisco begins with the resolution that aims to call for the United States Congress and the President to lift
Thank you for your comments.
to allow for travel and seek medical assistance.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. Operations, please unmute the next speaker.
Hi, supervisors. My name is Nishant. I'm a resident of the Bay Area for 8 years and grew up in India. Thank you for your time and space, and I'm here to voice my support for Resolution 200771, proposing India's Exclusionary Citizenship Amendment Act and National Registry of Citizens. Violence against India's minorities, oppressed castes, and indigenous peoples has escalated under India's Hindu fascist regime. And these laws remind us of the Nuremberg laws from Nazi Germany. Millions of oppressed caste people, religious minorities risk becoming stateless under these laws. These laws provide the power to systematically target marginalized people and put them in detention centers, many of which are rapidly being constructed already. These laws will affect people at every level, starting from the lowest levels of society up to the central level of the government. We in San Francisco are well aware of federal bodies like ICE that harass and target vulnerable populations and undocumented people. We fear escalation of similar programs in India at a much larger scale, and I hope that by passing this resolution, the city of San Francisco will stand in solidarity with oppressed people in India and the millions of people who have protested against these laws in India and around the world, and with several community leaders who have been jailed by the government in retaliation and put at risk for COVID. And I hope that this resolution will also condemn Hindu organizations in the United States that have not only funded but actively participated in the misinformation campaigns run by India's ruling government. I have faith in the leadership of the supervisors and urge you to pass this resolution today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, please unmute the last speaker.
Hi, thank you for the Board of Supervisors for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm the resident from the Bay Area. I'm here to support the resolution 200771, resolution 200771, which is agenda item number 47. NRC and CAA is a discriminatory law equivalent to Nuremberg law. Prosecution of minorities is rampant and on rise every day in India. USCIRF has recommended India in CPC status. Open Doors USA has listed India on top 10 countries that prosecute Christians. According to All India Christian Council, there was an attack on Christians every 40 hours. Every 40 hours there is an attack on one Christian. This is increasing day to day. The CAA law will make a lot of people stateless. We have seen in the past in India, this right-wing organization has killed thousands and thousands of minorities like Sikhs, Christians in Odisha. There are a lot of churches being burned down in southern part of India. So it is very important that we set an example. We please pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Operations, unmute the last caller, I believe.
Hi, my name is Angana Chatterjee. I co-chair the Political Conflict, Gender and People's Rights Initiative at the Center for Race and Gender at UC Berkeley. Thank you so much for giving me this time. My appreciation to you for considering Resolution 200771. The Hindu rights re-election in May 2019 commenced the reign of majoritarian despotism in India. The Narendra Modi-led Bharatiya Janata Party national government and the Hindu right are weaponizing religion and criminalizing difference. Casteist, heteronormative, unequal, this illiberal new order incorporates populism, nationalism, authoritarianism, and majoritarianism, and evidences abject disregard for the rule of law. Heightened Islamophobia has permeated India's conflicted democracy. Muslims in India, numbering over 160 million, and certain other marginalized groups are exceedingly vulnerable to systemic mistreatment, social and economic boycotts, massified violence, gendered, psychosocial, and sexualized violence, lynching, and the injurious citizenship laws. In Assam, the National Register of Citizens excluded 486,000 Muslims, rejecting valid documentation of belonging and residency and placing citizenship rights and protections and the human rights of Muslims at risk. Peaceful civil society protests dissenting these laws have swept across India. In authoritarian repudiation, state forces and Hindu right mobs attack protesters with impunity, deeming free speech as seditious. Citizenship laws advanced by Mr. Modi's government fortify legal discrimination based on religion. It is urgent that Resolution 200771 is passed as a call for justice. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Engineering report, please.
Yes, Madam Clerk, that completes the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Koo. Mr. President.
Yes, hi. Okay, thank you for all those comments. Nice to hear from the people from the Bay Area. So where am I? Oh, okay. Yes. Madam Clerk, let's go to the for adoption without committee reference item agendas, items 45 through 52.
Items 45 through 52 were introduced for adoption without reference to committee. A unanimous vote is required for resolutions on first reading today. Alternatively, any supervisor may require a resolution to go to committee.
Supervisor Mar, wait, before that, for anybody that wants to sever any of these items, go ahead and put yourself on the roster. Supervisor Mar.
Yeah, I'd like to sever item 47.
Let's see, who else is there? Supervisor Haney?
I'd like to sever item 46.
Mr. President, if no one else is on the roster, I would like to sever item 51, is it?
50.
50, okay. The motion tolling the appeals.
Oh, well, I'm going to sever 50. I don't know what you're.
Okay, I'm severing 51.
Anybody want to sever 48? Okay, no.
I'm happy to sever 48 if anyone wants to talk more about it.
No, I better not. For the remainder of the items, so we sever 46, 47, 50, and 51. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the remainder of the items.
On items 45, 48, 49, and 52, Supervisor Stephanie.
Aye.
Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Supervisor Fewer, you might be mute. Supervisor Fewer.
Oh, I said aye. Somebody is playing some music. Aye. Thanks.
Thank you. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Haney.
Aye.
Haney, aye. Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Marr.
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Okay, without objection, then these resolutions are adopted and motions are approved. Let's see, let's go to item 46.
Item 46 is a resolution to urge the Planning Department and Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure with the partnership of additional agencies to undertake a full assessment of the Mission Bay project and draft a community realm plan by 2022.
Supervisor Haney.
Thank you, President Yee. I spoke a bit about this earlier, so I'm not going to speak really about what's in the resolution, but I wanted to add an amendment to the resolution on page 3, line 18, to call out explicitly the role of the Office of Racial Equity in line with the comments made earlier related to Mission Bay. So line 17 to 18 should read, urging that the Planning Department and the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, in coordination with the Office of Racial Equity and other city agencies, and continue on. I just want to move that one amendment.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Supervisor Fewer. Roll call on the amendment. Motion on the amendment.
On the amendment, Supervisor Stephanie.
Aye.
Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Haney.
Aye.
Haney, aye. Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Marr.
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and so the motion passes. Can we have a roll call on the item itself as amended?
On item 46 as amended, Supervisor Stephanie.
Aye.
Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Haney.
Aye.
Haney, aye. Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Marr.
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Okay, so the resolution as amended is adopted. Madam Clerk, let's call item 47.
Item 47 is a resolution to oppose India's exclusionary National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Act and reaffirming San Francisco as a welcoming city, expressing the City and County of San Francisco's Board of Supervisors' solidarity with San Francisco's South Asian community, regardless of religion and caste.
Supervisor Marr.
Thank you, President Yee. Colleagues, I know it's very late, but I would like to speak to this item because so many South Asian community members spoke out during public comment, and this is an important issue for them. Through this resolution, San Francisco is joining an international movement to stand with Muslims and caste-oppressed communities in condemning India's exclusionary citizenship amendment, and also joining cities like Seattle, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Albany, and St. Paul to create global solidarity against this detrimental and racist policy. In this global pandemic, we now know more than ever how interconnected we truly are. We know how the actions of our leaders domestically influence the world, and the actions of other world leaders impact us. India's Citizenship Amendment Act, the National Register of Citizens, and the National Population Register is rooted in the far-right Hindu nationalist ideology of the Modi Shah regime and his Bharatiya Janata Party. Together, they lay the legal foundation to denaturalize millions of Indian minorities to create the largest network of concentration camps in the world. Since the act was passed last December, and especially during COVID, Muslims and other vulnerable communities, including Dalits, queers, and trans people, women, and the poor, are being profiled, treated as second-class citizens, and imprisoned in massive detention centers being built in India. Last August, the Indian government required 33 million people to prove their citizenship in the state of Assam, denaturalizing at least 2 million, mostly Muslim Indians, rendering them stateless. And on January 7th, Genocide Watch issued a genocide alert for India. We can't ignore the relationship between Hindu nationalism and American politics, the strong relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, and the shared bigoted policies, including discrimination on religious grounds, targeting vulnerable communities, stripping citizenship, fabricating crises, and stoking hatred. Far-right Hindu nationalist sympathizers are Trump's largest immigrant donor base, and in February, Trump announced a $3 billion arms deal with India. This is more than a foreign policy issue. The Hindu nationalist ecosystem extends to the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and there are complicit networks of power and caste oppression right here at home. So tonight, I hope you'll join me in reaffirming San Francisco as a welcoming city and to stand in solidarity with San Francisco's South Asian community and across the globe, regardless of religion and caste. It is the duty of ordinary people to oppose the dangerous rise of the far right everywhere in the world. When genocidal campaigns begin, we need to condemn them as an international community. Thank you to the many people who worked with us on this. Human Rights Commissioner and board member of the SF Interfaith Council, Hala Hijazi, Sharmin Hossain of Equality Labs, Dr. Nazir Ahmed of the American Institute of Islamic History and Culture, Dr. Ijaz Naqvi, and Javiria Jamil from the Asian Law Caucus. And thank you to my constituent, Rabbi Pam Friedman of Congregation B'nai Emuna in the Sunset, for bringing this issue to my attention. And thank you to the organizations working nationally, including Alliance of South Asians Taking Action, Alliance for Justice and Accountability, Indian American Muslim Council, and Council on American Islamic Relations. And finally, thanks to my co-sponsors, Supervisors Haney, Preston, Safai, Peskin, Fewer, Walton, Stephanie, and Mandelman. Thank you.
Supervisor Haney?
I was just making sure I was on as a co-sponsor. Thanks for your leadership and to everyone who called in and partnered with you. And Commissioner.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Thank you, President. Mera dost, Supervisor Mar, हम थोड़ा थोड़ा हिंदी बोलते हैं, थोड़ा थोड़ा Urdu बोलते हैं, which is to say, I speak a little Hindi, I speak a little Urdu. I'm very, albeit I'm a co-sponsor, reticent to assume the role of a member of Congress, but I agree that there is virulent racism that is happening in the nation state of India. I join it, but I caution my colleagues that we are not members of Congress, but there are members of our community, including Mrs. Jazi, who have brought a righteous thing to us. But we should proceed with matters like this very, very carefully. Bahut dandebat.
Okay, roll call, please.
On item 47, Supervisor Stephanie.
Aye.
Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Haney.
Aye.
Haney, aye. Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Mar.
Aye.
Mar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Okay, this resolution passed is adopted.